I hope that you are well, and I also hope that you are having a good day so far. Grade 3 English lesson on simple verb tenses. And before we start with our lesson on simple verb tenses, we're going to log into aplusstudents.ca. Once you've logged into aplusstudents.ca with our username as well as our password, and then we're going to select the subject of language arts, grade 3. Once you've selected the subject of language arts, grade 3, and then we are going to scroll down up until we get to the chapter of simple verb tense. So we're doing our chapter on simple verb tense or simple verb tenses, and usually if you hear the word tenses, then you must know it is either to do with the past, the future, or even the present tense. So there's three different tenses. We have our tense in the present, we have our past tense, as well as our future tense. And our subject is English language arts. So we'll be doing the chapter of simple verb tenses. Subject is English language arts, grade 3. And the lessons that we're going to be focusing on is the sentence in the past, the future, or the present tense. And we are doing our tutorial lesson on aplusstudents.ca. Right? So verbs, they have three simple tenses. We have the present tense, we have the past tense, and the future tense, right? So with the present tense, it shows the action or condition that occurs now. It occurs now within the present tense, right? It's something that is happening now, right? And then we have the past tense, right? And in the past tense, it shows the actions or conditions that was completed in the past, right? It happened already. And then we have the future tense, which shows the action or condition that will occur in the future, meaning it did not happen as yet, it will still happen, or it needs to still happen, right? And that is basically our tenses, right? So we have our present tense, we have the past tense, and we have the future tense, right? And we see the present tense, it shows the actions that occurs now. The past tense, which shows the action that was completed in the past. And the future tense, which shows the action that will still happen in the future, right? Meaning it did not happen as yet. So we are going to find out today about the three different tenses, right? In the present, in the past, as well as in the future, right? And when it comes to the simple tenses, right? Like we made an example, we said was not an example, but we said in the past, present, and future. We said, for example, in the past, the person walked, right? And before we go to the past, present, right? It's something that happens or occurs now, right? So the present, it's something that happens or occurs now. So which means that now, which is in the present, we can say the person walks. So it's either you walk or we can say walks, right? Then in the past, so walk or walks is something that the person is doing now, right? And then in the past, right, we can say the person walked, and we basically add an ed, right, to show the action that took place in the past. And then in the future tense, right, we basically show or it indicates or occurs that the person will walk, meaning they did not walk as yet. They will walk. So we either add an ed for the past, right? The future we add will, and in the present, depending on if it's singular person or plural person, the person either walk or walks, right? And the same with eats, right? So in the present, someone eat or eats. In the past, I ate candy, right? And in the future, I will eat candy, right? So these are our simple tenses, right? And it shows the different tenses, the things that's happening, that is the action that is happening or the action that's occurring in the present, which is now, in the past, which happened already, and in the future, which will happen. All right, so now we're going to a plus students.ca. And our lesson is the sentence in the past, the present, or future tense. All right, so in the present tense, right? The present tense, it tells you about something that is happening now. So the present tense, it tells you about something that is happening now. So when it comes to the present tense, most present tense verbs, they are regular, right? And when we say it is regular, right, and then we say that there is no ending, or they end either in s or they end in es, right? That is when we mean by it is regular and there is no ending, right? And that is the present tense, and that is why we made an example earlier on where we said that either the person walk or the person walks, right? Yes, ed means it's in the past, right? But when comes to the present tense, right, something that occurs or happens now, and then it has no ending. So like we said, it either end in s or it ends in es, depending on the specific word, right? So we say that the present tense verbs, they tell us about something that is happening now, right? Remember present, it's now. And then we said most present tense verbs, they are regular. And when it comes to it being regular, and then it means that there's certain rules that they follow. Like for example, like we say with they either end in S or they end in ES, right? So two verbs, right, are irregular. So two verbs are irregular in the present tense. And the two verbs that are irregular in the present tense are to be and to have, right? So to be and to have are irregular verbs in the present tense. And when it comes to verbs being irregular, right, you are just going to have to remember the form, right? Because it's as if the wording changes. And when we say the wording changes, then it means that we don't just add S or we don't just add ES, right? It's like the whole word changes or a few letters in that word changes. And then we have the past tense, right? And then we have the past tense. And the past tense verb, they tell you about something that has already happened, meaning it's in the past, right? Whether it happened, like if it's now, let's say past 5, but if it happened either 4 p.m., it happened 3 p.m., it happened this morning, that happened already. It's in the past, right? So when it comes to the past tense verb, most past tense verbs, they are regular, right? So most past tense verbs are regular. And when I say it is regular, then I mean it either ends in ed or it ends in d, right? And we are going to find out how it ends in ed or when it ends in d, right? And some of the verbs are irregular in the past tense. And remember, I said that if it is irregular, then it means that you're just going to have to remember the past tense form because, like I say, it's like the wording changes, right? It's like saying, let me choose a color. It's like saying, I drink water, right? But in the past, I drank water, right? Which means that this word drank, it is an irregular verb, right? Because it's not like we said, I drink it water, right? So drink is the past, it's in the present, and drank is the past. So drank is the past and it is irregular. Because as you can see, that letter, right, it changed. It changed. But if we say it is regular, right, then it's like saying, um, let me erase this. If we say it is regular, it's a regular verb in the past tense, and then we say it is, I'm going to make an example now. If I make an example of a regular verb in the past tense, and then the present tense, we can say, we walk to school, right? So walk being our verb, the action that takes place, right? And then if we want to change that to, if we want to write that in the past tense, and then we say we walk to school, right? So now this is a regular verb, right? And this is a regular verb because, like we say, it ends in ed. So if there's a rule that you need to follow that, for example, says either it ends in ed, right? Then that is a regular verb, right? When it's irregular, and then it says if the words or the wording or changes, because now it doesn't just follow the rules of adding ed, you are going to have to remember the past tense verb. Like, for example, write, it's the present, but in the past, I wrote, right? In the present, it's like I think. This is now irregular verbs. And then in the past, right, I thought about it, right? But these are irregular verbs. And regular verbs, right, it basically ends in ed. Does that make sense? Um, Anybody don't understand? Before I continue, so I can continue. All right. Then we're moving on. Yeah, so drank would mean like it is in the past tense, right? And drank is an irregular verb because you're just gonna have to remember the past tense form, right? A regular verb would mean where we just add an ed to the present tense form. So yes, that is correct. All right, so now we're going on to the future tense, right? And remember, future, it's like somebody asking you, what do you want to be in the future, right? The future is not now, right? It's, and whenever they ask you the question about what do you want to be in the future, for example, then you always think of something ahead, right? Things that must still happen, right? So in this case, when it comes to the verbs, actions, right? In the future tense, in the future, it can either be tonight, it can be tomorrow, it can be next week, it can be next month, it can be next year, right? But it is in the future. It tells you about something that is going to happen, right? They're saying yes because I asked, should I continue? Does everybody understand? All right, so the future tense, like I say, the verb, it tells you about something that is going to happen. And like I say, it can be tonight, let's say maybe morning hours, can be tomorrow, can be next week, can be next month, can be next year, can be 10 years time, right? But it must still happen. It did not happen yet, it's going to happen, right? And all of our future tense verbs, all of the future tense verbs, they use the word will. So this word will, it shows us that it's going to happen, right? And if we look at an example, right? If we look at a few examples, it says in the present tense, right? In the present tense, we can say walk, right? So we can maybe make an example and say James walks. So it can either be walk or walks, right? To the park, right? So James walks or James walk to the park, right? So now if we were to write this in the, so this is a present tense. I'm going to put here present. And then if we want to change the sentence into the past tense, right? And then we can say James walked, and there we have our ed, to the park. And this is in the past, right? And then if we want to write this very same sentence in the future tense, right? And then we can say James will walk. And there's our word will, walk to the park. And this is our future tense, right? So this basically shows our tenses. This shows the very same sentence in the present, in the past, and in the future. And this basically shows us the action that occurred in the present, in the past, and in the future. And these are regular. These are regular verbs, right? Because they follow a rule, like either it adds s or es for the past, for the present tense. In the past tense, we either add an ed, and in the future, it's just will. All right. So now it says, which tense does the sentence use? If we now look at the different tenses in the present, in the past, and in the future, Mr. tense, does it show the past tense or does it show the future tense? All right, so if we look at this specific sentence, right, it says Mr. Garner will send a message to the teacher, right? And then it means that this shows the future tense, right? Meaning that he needs to, or he will, or he has to, or he's going to still send a message to the teacher. So, yes, this is in the future tense. So, it shows the future tense. Two hawks rest in the tree. So, two hawks rest in the tree. If we look at the word rest, does that show the present tense? Does that show the past tense, or does it show the future tense? Rest. Two hawks rest in the tree. And if we say the two hawks rest in the tree, we can say this is the present tense. So we say this is the present tense. And I will forgive Kimi for the silly mistakes. So which tense does the sentence use? I will forgive Kimi for the silly mistake. Is this in the present tense? Is this the present tense, the past tense, or the future tense? So I will forgive Kimi for the silly mistake. And if we were to choose the tense, then we'll say this is the future tense, right? And especially the word will gives us the indication that it is in the future. All right, so now we're going on to our test, right? So we're going on to the test. Here it says, which tense does the sentence use? So we're not going to have to say which tense the sentence use. It says, Mrs. Peterson will reply to Ronnie's question about space. So Mrs. Peterson will reply to Ronnie's question about space. So is that in the future tense, or is it present tense? So is it future tense or present tense? And if we were to choose the correct answer, and then we would say it's in the future. And especially if we look at the word will, the word will gives us indication that it is the future tense. So well done. Future tense is correct. The teacher repeated the question to the class. The teacher repeated the question in the past. To the class, sorry. Is that in the past or is that in the present? Is that past tense or present tense? So the teacher repeated the question to the class. So repeated. Is that in the past or is that in the present? Which tense are they showing? So repeated. Is that in the past or is that in the present? All right. So basically, if we look at the word repeated, right? Repeated sounds as if it is in the past, right? But it is actually simple present tense, right? Because it says the teacher repeated the question to the class. All right, so everybody, okay, let's just go with the past. So teacher repeated. So it's basically like simple present but past. Well done. So it can also show the simple present tense, but in this case, it is in the past. So well done. The herd of horses will travel together. So the herd of horses will travel together. Is that future tense or is that past tense? The herd of horses will travel together. So is it the future tense or is it the past tense? Look at the word will travel. Will travel. So the herd of horses will travel together. All right, and if we were to choose the correct tense, we will say it's in the future. And especially if we look at the word will tells us that it is in the future because it's something that needs to still happen. It will still happen. It's going to still happen. All right, so well done. Future tense is correct. Mrs. Newton manages the busy office. So Mrs. Newton manages the busy office. Is that in the present tense or is that in the past tense? And think of when we were doing the lesson, right? It specifically said that in one of the tenses we either add s or we add es. So Mrs. Newton manages the busy office. Is that present tense or is that past tense? And if we were to choose which tense, right, does the sentence use, and then we will choose option one, which is the present tense. And remember, we said with the present tense, and then the word either ends in es or it ends in s, right? So present tense. So well done, everybody. Present tense is correct. All right. Megan and Zach practiced the dance together. So Megan and Zach practiced the dance together. Practiced. Is that in the past or does it show the present? Practiced. And if you specifically look at the word ed that it ends with, does it show the past or does it show the present? All right, and if we choose the correct tense, and then we will choose the past tense, right? Remember, practiced. Remember, we said that a regular past tense, it ends either in D or it ends in ED, right? Because I practice the dance, like we practice the dance together, which is now in the present, and in the past, we practiced the dance together. And in the future, Megan and Zach will practice the dance together. So, which means that this is the past. Because practiced, and remember, past tense, we said it either ends in D or it ends in ED. So, well done. Past tense is correct, not the future tense. All right, let me make this nice and big. Okay, so now they're telling us that we need to circle the action verbs and write whether it is either past tense or present tense or future tense, right? So it says Phoebe likes movies. So Phoebe likes movies. What is the action verb within that sentence? Phoebe likes movies. And is it the present tense, the past tense, or the future tense? So Phoebe likes movies. So what is the action verb? And what tense does it show? Does it show the present tense, the past tense, or the future tense? All right, so if we were to choose the verb, then we choose likes, and this is in the present. So well done. We will watch a movie. So we will watch a movie. What is the action verb within that sentence? And does it show the past tense, the present tense, or does it show the future tense? We will watch a movie. So we will watch a movie. All right. So if we choose the action verb within that sentence, right, it's either watch or we can just say will watch, and then this is the future tense. Because remember, the word will tells us that it is in the future. So well done, everybody. Will watch is correct. You will be late. You will be late. What is the action verb? And does it show the present, the past, or the future tense? All right, so this is basically showing the future tense, and it is you will be. So it's either can you can either say only be, or we add the will to show the specific tense, right? Okay, the last one. Jean enjoyed this book. Jean enjoyed this book. So Jean enjoyed this book. What is the action verb? And does it show the present, the past tense, or the future tense? So if we choose the action verb, it is enjoyed, and it ends in ed. All right, so well done, guys. And it shows the past tense. Well done. All right. So that is basically our lesson on simple verb tenses. And we said that, remember, when it comes to verb tenses, right, then you must know we have three simple verb tenses, which is the present, the past, as well as the future, right? And then the present tense, it shows the action that occurs now, right? And it usually ends in es or s. The past tense shows the action that is completed in the past, and it usually ends in d or ed. And the future tense shows an action that occurs or that will occur in the future. And with the future tense, we usually use the word will to show the tense, right? So this is basically the end of our lesson on simple verb tenses. Thank you very much, everybody, for being interactive, as well as for giving answers and for basically just being involved in the class. I really hope that you're going to have a good weekend further. Till next time, goodbye.